You know, I really hate to say it. It kind of hurts my heart, but Totri, I think Cabo changed you. Happy Friday, and welcome into PHNX Sun Devils, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Branded Bills. Head to brandedbills.com. Use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. Anthony Totri still on vacation, so I'm your passenger princess sitting in the driver's seat yet again. My name is Erik Ruby. Of course, we got Ralph Amsden joining me from the other side of the screen, and we have the Deli Man behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen per usual. We have M, Satan, and Satin, Banshidi, Steven, Sharon in the chat. Guess what? Everybody's a member. How cool is that? You could be a member today as well by hitting that join button. Not Banshidi. It's okay, though, Banshidi. Don't be a loser. Yep. Be a winner. Become a member today. Get access to exclusive emojis, exclusive content, a green name, a prepaid super chat every single month. So that $5 that it costs a month basically pays for itself if you're already a super chatter. We got a packed show today to get into with Ralph. We'll talk about the recent reporting about Kenny Dillingham's future at Arizona State and what the program and the fan base has to do to keep him around, not just for next year, but for the long haul. We'll take a quick look at some of the games that possibly Kenny Dillingham could be looking at for local recruiting purposes this weekend. And then we'll take a big look at the upcoming Big 12 slate. No ASU football, but still a packed weekend. Ralph, though, I had to get you on today to talk about the two most important topics out there right now. Kyler Murray and Bradley Beal.
Kyler Murray, oh my gosh. I actually have more opinions than I'm comfortable with about both of those situations. And if I could boil them all down to one thing, and I know you're joking, but like sports and the consumption of sports and like the existence of PHNX in general, it's supposed to be fun. And no one and no dialogue around any individual max contract athlete has sucked more joy out of being an Arizona sports fan than the dialogue and the play and the entire circumstance of both Bradley Beal and Kyler Murray. So I'm every time their names are brought up, a little like just kind of duck and cringe.
I've been shocked with the amount of discourse from at Ralph Amsden on socials about Kyler and Bradley Beal as of late. I'm like, every time I'm checking in, it's either ASU or it's Murray or it's Beal. But some good news from Chris Cartman tweeting that according to sources, Kenny Dillingham went into position player meetings earlier the week of the Iowa State game and told the kids that he will be coaching next year, despite, of course, all of the noise surrounding him. He also talked on local radio this morning about how much he loves it here, how much his family loves it here. Ralph, there was a lot of rumors from Arkansas, from a bunch of other schools of them trying to poach Kenny Dillingham. Are you surprised to hear that Kenny had, yes, privately confirmed to his team that he's not going anywhere for the time being?
No, not really, because the very, very cool thing about where we exist in the current sports compensation landscape is that even Kenny Dillingham is making 5 to 8 times what the highest paid coach in America made 25 years ago. Most people have the ability, if they live in a college town, to live off of the contracts that they have been granted, and they have 25 years of watching people chase the money only to ultimately get fired. So if you are a student of history and forward looking, you can avoid some of these traps. If you're a Brent Key at Georgia Tech, or if you're Jeff Brom at Louisville, or if you're Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, this is your alma mater. You're making more money than anybody has ever made in this profession before, and you have to ask yourself, what are your ultimate goals? And some people say, well, if the ultimate goal is to win a national championship, then you're going to go to where the most resources are. But we just kind of democratized resources with the House settlement, with people being able to be paid, not necessarily under the table. And you can catch lightning anywhere, but what we're going to find out is if you can build in your dream home. And he's going to be a pioneer of that movement, along with Brent Key, along with Jeff Brom. And I think that that's really what you're after as a fan base. It just really becomes as fans, do we know how to handle ourselves in this new era when somebody wants to be a new Paterno or a new Dabo Swinney, with somebody going on multiple decades building at the same program. So no surprise at all. He's making a lot of money, and would it be worth upsetting the fan base in the way that it would upset the fan base in your home, where your relatives have made your home, where your history is, to go and ring chase when you have more leverage and power here than you would necessarily have anywhere else? So Auburn chasing him, you look at their history, they don't have coaches making it even 3 to 4 years. And he knows, he worked there. If you look at Arkansas, you have mega donors, but they're more interested in basketball than football. And you've watched that fan base turn on Brett Bielema, who has actually been better at all of his destinations than all of his predecessors and the people that have come after him, if you look at both Wisconsin and Arkansas. So you got to be kind of a student of history and forward looking. I think Kenny Dillingham is both, and I think that's what will continue to land him right back at Arizona State, as long as we, the fans, make it a welcoming and fertile environment for him to do so.
I want to kind of dive in more on that. One of the things we will talk about, Ralph, is what does ASU as a program, as a school, need to do to keep a coach like Kenny Dillingham satisfied? Because as much as he does love being here and wants to win here, if they don't show the investment in football that I think, frankly, they have been showing over the last couple of years, if they don't continue to show that and up that as the results come, then I do think that it's going to get to a point where, as a coach and as a competitor, you don't want to stay where you don't think you can win. But before we get to that, I think you're the first person in this whole conversation that I've seen or heard bring up the fans. We were texting about it earlier, and it piqued my interest. What do you mean by we as a fan base need to be either better or different or just continue to improve in order to make this a welcoming and continual environment for Kenny Dillingham to not only want to be in here in Tempe, but to thrive in?
Yeah, great question, Erik Ruby.
Thank you.
I know we
Ralph
talked about
Amsden.
it beforehand, but it is something I've been thinking about for a long time, because when you have somebody come in and they say it's their goal to activate the Valley, and we all rally around it, right? We're like, yeah, let's activate the Valley. Well, what is the Valley? Who is the Valley? We're actually the target of a lot of these messages. And so if Kenny Dillingham's slogan is that we play a part in the success of Arizona State, it is something that it helps to be thoughtful and intentional about. And so I think the most important thing for Arizona State fans is to set their intentions. In any organization, whether it's a business or a sports club or even like the high school that you went to, the best and highest performing organizations have people rowing in the same direction. It's not that they have less discord than other organizations, because we're all human, we're all going to have complaints, and we're all lobbyists for our own self-interest. It's that they have systems in place to make sure that those things are addressed, and it's that they also know when to pull the cord on the people who that's just part of their whole vibe, and they don't actually have an interest in success at all. So as a fan base, we have to set kind of our intention of what it's going to look like to support this football program, to support Kenny Dillingham, to support Graham Rossini and Arizona State athletics. Sometimes it's resources and money. Sometimes it's showing up. Sometimes it's showing grace. Sometimes it's not engaging with the least common denominator of your fan base. So it really just depends on having to take a moment to ask yourself, is this constructive or destructive? Because if we're part of the build, if activating the valley is part of the build, then everyone kind of has to put on their hard hat and figure out what their role is as a construction worker. And for some people, that can't be resources. You don't have that extra income lying around or anything like that. It's not as simple as donating. And a lot of people who donate are destructive forces anyway. You look at the reputations of a Florida and an Auburn, it's the people who bring the money, who have the influence, who can also be destructive in the way that they wield those things. So one of the things we talk about every Wednesday night on Sun Devil Spaces is to, and it's very much a preaching to the choir. Often we'll complain to each other, the people who show up every Wednesday night, to talk about what it means to be a good and invested Sun Devil. But I think at the end of the day, it really just comes down to setting your intention and being self-aware and knowing that, like, there's people that are, for lack of a better word, not going to be helpful in this process. And that doesn't mean, like, don't associate with it in your personal life. Like, this is sports. But as far as, like, how you behave and engage online, maybe that Facebook group's not good for you. Like, maybe there are people on social media that you need to mute.
Ralph, we could just clip that beyond Arizona State. I think that could just be maybe a message for the entire world on everything. Maybe that Facebook group is not for you.
Maybe, yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. I couldn't survive. I could not survive 10 days of only being in Sun Devil Facebook and not having access to any other social media app, no YouTube, no Twitter. I couldn't do it. And I don't know how people have managed to do it, but kudos to you if that's how you exist in your Sun Devil community. But yeah, I just think that it is super, super important to be intention setters as fans, and to also understand that there are different waves and generations of fandom. The standard that you have for somebody who is coming back into the fold as a fan, who has kids or empty nester or whatever, is not the same for the 18 to 25-year-olds. The standards should not apply for those people. They are infants in both practice and fandom. And so understanding that there's multiple standards for multiple people, and just setting your own personal intention on, what it is that you can do to be part of the build, how you talk, how you engage, how you spend your time, how you donate. I'm going to be really, really honest. There are some people to which sports gaming adds a huge, huge benefit to their viewing experience. But there are times you got to ask yourself of, like, oh, did betting on ASU make me a better or worse supporter of ASU? Like,
we're getting deep.
These are just
not even a better or worse supporter.
You got to ask yourself.
A better or worse person.
Shane heard sports betting and had to tune in.
I'm not kidding.
No, but like towards the athletes, or toward, like, whatever result it might be. I mean, we've seen a bunch of people, not just at ASU, but like we've seen a bunch of just athletes go out there and say, yeah, somebody's giving me death threats. Somebody is wishing that I had cancer. Somebody's this, somebody is that. Like, yeah, the sports betting part of it can make it a whole sickness. And, I think, Ralph, there's a lot of really interesting elements in all of this that we'll continue to unpack today. But I do think, as a fan base, I have been impressed from what ASU has done from a showing up and supporting perspective, selling out all of these home games, right? Like, just being here, I've noticed just kind of a swell of support. Now, I do think that there is still a couple more levels to that support that the fan base can get into, and it has felt like, and again, I know I'm probably a really big kind of bastion of this because I am a very in the moment, this or that kind of person, but it's felt like it's been a very emotional roller coaster experience from fans. And I think something that Totri has really been trying to push is, like, let's just take a step back and appreciate the fact that we're at a point where we can be, quote unquote, disappointed about a team not being on the path to getting back to the Big 12 championship, but still being 3 games above 500, 3 years into the Kenny Dillingham experience. I think there is a part of fandom that is like, I need it now, and I want it now, and I want everything. And we got that last year. And it's, how do you kind of come to terms with the fact that you're not going to be able to do that every year, but can you treat this program with some grace while still having expectations? in everything nowadays, it's hard to find a middle ground. I think when you've gotten something so fast, Ralph, and seen the instant gratification from the Kenny Dillingham era, that accelerated a lot of these expectations that usually take a lot longer for a coach to get on their shoulders. We're going to continue to talk about those expectations. We're going to talk about what the program has to do to keep Kenny happy. Plus, we'll look at the Big 12 and some local high school games this weekend. It's Ralph Amsden, join PHNX Sun Devils. I always enjoy our conversations. I feel like I'll learn a ton, and we're going to continue to learn after our first break. There's only one way I might enjoy the Ralph Amsden experience better, and that's if I was indulging in some pure edibles. Listen, pure edibles are just about everything that you want in an edible, just because you know how you're going to feel. One of the number one complaints that I always had with edibles before I discovered pure was they would just be so basic: sativa, indica, hybrid. But they would all make me feel differently, and the dosage would feel weird, and I didn't know what to expect. It made me not want to take edibles. But with pure gummies, not only are they easy to be ripped and bit in half, making sure you can dial in your exact dose, or you can share it with friends, of course, all over the age of 21, but they clearly list all the effects on the tin: sleepy, relaxed, uplifted, balanced, whatever you're looking for, they have it with pure edibles. Unique blends of CBN, CBG, CBD, and of course, marijuana-derived THC. Plus, they have a new collab with the Tower Station IPA, all in one with a THC twist. Go find yourself some pure edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona. Also, love Rally House. Rally House might just be my favorite place in the state to go to. I stopped at Rally House on my off day, actually, a couple of days ago. I was around Tempe Marketplace with my beautiful wife, Megan. We were going to all the stores, and I said, I have to stop in Rally House, take a look at the ASU merch that they have, the Suns merch they have, the Diamondbacks merch. They have everything local in Arizona sports. They also have locations in Mesa, in Glendale. But I also want to encourage you to go shop online. They have hundreds of pages, not just items, pages of Arizona sports fan gear, from shirts to hats to shorts to drinkware, signage, coolers, and socks. Hell, they even have sunscreen, which, look at me, you know I need it, and I can get it at Rally House. Find your local Rally House location. Shop their entire product assortment online at www.rallyhouse.com today. That's in Tempe, Mesa, and Glendale, and online at www.rallyhouse.com. Also, love to rally around our daily newsletter that's got a little bit of a refresher. Of course, we very much appreciate everything that Pat Brown did for us, but now we have Alex D'Agostino, who's running the show. He's been doing amazing, writing articles about the Cardinals after every single game, and now he's bringing you the biggest news in Arizona sports in your inbox daily at 6 a.m. for no cost. It is absolutely, completely free. It's not just, I love saying this, I haven't said it in a while, an amalgamation of links to other stories. No, it's actual, unique, fresh writing every single morning. Be the smartest sports fan you know. Go to gophnx.com/newsletter to sign up for the free PHNX Daily. Alrighty, let's continue to get into this, Ralph, as y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become a member today. I want to get into what ASU as a program has to do to keep Dilly happy. And as a school, you know, as an entity, the Arizona State University entity, one of the things that has been brought up in chat is these answers that Kenny have been giving, right? Scaling back to a couple of weeks ago when he was asked about his names being linked, and he says, I'm focused on coaching Arizona State right now, right? Even in the reports from Chris Cartman, it was, I'm going to be here next year. He's on local radio this morning. He doesn't say he's going to be at Arizona State for the next decade because he wants to be here. I think personally, just from my gut feeling, this is not Kenny foreshadowing, you know, him leaving. I think it's him putting pressure on the school, on the faculty, on the university, on the fans to continue to up their support because, like you mentioned, we've democratized resources. And in order to compete, not just in the Big 12, but where Kenny and his wife, where they all want to compete, which is national championship level, Ralph, ASU's done a great job at upping their resources, a great job of upping their investment, but they are not at a point where their continual investment in everything is at the point of a national championship contender. That's how I read some of these vague comments about the long-term future from Kenny Dillingham. Are you in the same boat as me, or are you a little concerned by how these answers have been phrased, even though it's been reassuring for the short term?
Not really, because it all just depends on the audience. So let's take popping into player position meetings, as Chris Cartman reported, and saying, I'm going to be here next year. Who is he talking to in that circumstance? Every single player on the team who is on a year to year. Every single player on the team's on a year to year. All they're thinking about is what's next. They're not thinking about when they're 35, 45 years old. They're not even thinking 2-3 years down the road. This is a setup in which their participation in Arizona State athletics is year to year, and they have an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. So his audience it's just the truth, man. Remember being 22?
I can't wait to turn 22, Ralph. One day.
You got a fresh face. I know you're married, though. I don't know too many 21-year-olds out there lawfully wedded, but
changing the game.
I will say that you do just have to take that into account. So that's number one. When you're talking to players saying that I'm going to be here next year, that influences the decision that they're making for next year. So audience matters in that circumstance. When you're talking about a media Monday presser or a scrum or something like that, and he says, my focus is on XYZ, which mirrors a lot of what you're seeing around the country outside of maybe a Georgia Tech or an Oregon, where at Oregon there are certain assurances made. And at Georgia Tech, the head coach is a former offensive lineman, and they're just a little different, a little more loyal, a little more forthright in how they conduct their business. I don't think that Brent Key has aspirations beyond making Georgia Tech as good as he can make Georgia Tech. But if you're Kenny Dillingham and you are at an institution that has classically been able to raise resources when the president, athletic director, and head coach are all in alignment for those resources, but when you don't have alignment, you haven't necessarily been able to do those things. You have to be really smart in how you go about things. And the way that I liken it is to, any organization where, let's say I wanted a raise and my boss is in alignment with me, sees my value, and also wants me to have a raise. But they know that their boss needs leverage in order to make that happen. So I can tell you right now, stuff that I'm hearing is Kenny Dillingham's agent was presented with numbers from alternate institutions, and in such a way where it's deniable, where it's like, hey, would you be interested in 10 million a year? That type of stuff, where you can say an offer wasn't made, but if you're interested, it becomes an offer, right? So when you have that type of thing going on behind the scenes, it's important for you to be somewhat cryptic. You can't give the game away and you can't remove leverage, especially if everybody's on the same page that you need additional resources. And there are people that you have to convince that there's the possibility that if you don't get those resources, you might lose everything that you're building. So, in my opinion, it's important for Graham Rossini and for Arizona State's fans to have Kenny Dillingham out here being cryptic. Because if he gives the game away, he might give the leverage away. And if you look at what Kenny Dillingham has done with some of the resources that come his way, whether it's paying Christmas bonuses out to staff that wouldn't otherwise get that money that was contractually promised to Kenny Dillingham. If you look at who he came up under with Todd Graham, making donations himself to encourage other people to give to the refurbishing of Sun Devil Stadium, now Mountain America Stadium. Like, I think that he understands that there is a certain level of investment from him that goes beyond just taking. And so I think Kenny Dillingham's aim for additional resources is to create a healthier and more robust program in which his assistants and players benefit directly from that. In order to do that, you have to have leverage. You have to. And he has created that leverage by being cryptic. Even though it makes us uncomfortable, I think it works out in our benefit in the end.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think that there is the personal money aspect of it. And then there, of course, is the taking care of the people. I also think there's another kind of avenue in this where you say, like, notoriously, Arizona State can raise funds when everybody's in alignment. And as a Suns fan, I've heard the word alignment quite a bit. We've also seen Arizona State, again, under different leadership, but within the last decade, completely dismantle a football program, right? Like, make decisions, not give it the money, whatever it might be. Like, Arizona State had fumbled what was a good thing. Was it a great thing? No, but it was a good thing. There's also this in increasing emphasis from Arizona State and from Michael Crow on education, which is a good thing, right? Arizona State as a university as a whole, beyond the athletics, Michael Crow has done a fantastic job at the overall, like, reputation of Arizona State. But that has also come with, over the last decade or so, ASU fans being frustrated about the overall investments, not just into football, but into athletics as a whole. And I think if you are Kenny Dillingham and you are going to be cryptic and you are going to kind of put this pseudo pressure on Arizona State as a university, as a program, to continue to invest, for the donors to continue to invest, you can't let people get comfortable, right? Because there might be a way where maybe higher ups, and I won't say specifically Crow, or maybe there are some donors or whatever, will look at the last couple of years of Arizona State and say, that's great. Like, football, that's awesome. And maybe we're just going to ride on this. Like, we're good. Let's just be a competent football team for the next decade. Cool. We'll sell out the stadium. Maybe we'll make a couple Big 12 championships. Maybe every once in a while we'll make the college football playoffs. Our program has never consistently, for the long term, really been like that in what most of our lifespans have been, and most of our time as fans or investment, in this franchise. We've had our peaks, but have we ever sustained it? And I think there's maybe this, not concern, but this future focus from Dilly, like you mentioned, about wanting to continue to raise the bar. Understand that we are not satisfied and we are not happy with what is going on right now. Sure, you're building a new practice facility. That's awesome. Sure, there is more money going into the football program. That's awesome. Donors are donating more. That's awesome. That's great. Guess what? We want to be better. We don't just want to be good in the Big 12. We want to be the best team in the Big 12. We don't just want to make the college football playoffs every once in a while, which, again, they've only made it once. There's still time, obviously, to try to do it consistently, but it's not easy. Kenny said this morning he wants to win national championships, right? So if you want to keep him here at Arizona State, which you should want to, you need to provide the resources as best as you can to get him as close to that as possible, and understand that he will make work probably less than what he's going to get from an SEC or from a top Big Ten school. But you're going to have to get closer to where you are. And I think that there is some of that in what he's saying, Ralph, that is applying pressure in that sense, beyond just the let's make sure that the people, myself, and of course everybody else, are well taken care of, included.
Yeah, and here's where you also have to understand who you're dealing with in Kenny Dillingham. It's important to understand certain things about this guy who is still very young and growing into this role. And he hasn't even imagined some of the mistakes that he's going to make yet as Arizona State's head coach. Like, hopefully we got a long way to go with Kenny Dillingham as Arizona State's head coach to find out what lessons he ultimately ends up learning, what ways in which he gambles that don't necessarily pay off, and how he's formed into this job because he's still relatively new to it. I look at Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. Ryan Silverfield went with Kenny Dillingham, with Mike Norvell, with Dan Lanning to Memphis, and that was 2016. If you look at Ryan Silverfield's staff in 2025, he's the only person left. It's just him. He went as a low-level staffer, and 10 seasons later, he's it. So you look at what happened with Charlie Ragle. You look at what happened with Bo Baldwin. If we get Kenny Dillingham 6-7 years down the road, there might not be a single person that he's working with today that is there 6 to 7 years from now. Now, we know that that's what burned Todd Graham out. A former high school coach who liked having his guys, who wasn't necessarily comfortable with people growing to the to the place where they were going to leave, even though he has a very impressive coaching tree, it's hard to bring in newer and younger people and be that dominant personality, especially when you're not necessarily bringing them in off 10-win seasons. The motivation to listen to you and let you be domineering is lower, right? So you look at Kenny Dillingham, he's young, he is emotional, and not in a bad way. Like, there's people who are going to hear that word that have a rough connotation of that word, and I'm sorry for your upbringing. But he is emotional. He was teared up at Jeff Sims setting a rushing record in an away win regular season game against a team that is now 2-4 in conference. He has emotions, which means from week to week, he's going to live and die with a lot of these players' injuries, with the things that their families are going through. You look at a guy like Sean McVay, who everyone thinks is the greatest coach, with this photographic memory, and how close he gets to quitting at the end of every season. And you have to think about what emotionally intelligent and forward-thinking people go through in a job like this. You have to be sensitive to those type of things, right? And it's not saying like he's going to throw a tantrum and quit if you don't give him what he wants. It's saying that that this is going to take a heavy toll on him every single year. He is putting all of himself into what he's doing every single year. So some of the way that he talks is going to be with an understanding of I don't know if I can do what I do in the way I do it for 5 more years. He might have to make some adjustments. He might have to grow some of those calluses. You want to get on Nick Saban's level, without becoming a Brian Kelly, you're going to have to grow into it. You're going to have to grow up a little bit. And so it'll be interesting to see what some of the down seasons, assuming you're going to have him for a long time, what some of those down seasons do to him. And based on what people's expectations are, what is a down season? We didn't have a Big 12 preseason poll this year, but I think a lot of people expected Arizona State to win the Big 12. That might not happen. How is everyone going to handle that?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's so much to be learned as a fan base in this. I mean, not even just from the fact of, hey, this is Kenny's first time doing this, and this is our first time, since Frank Kush having a young coach, right? And for, again, so many ASU fans like myself, it is literally just the first time, right? Like, there's been success, but it's never been a bubble like this where you feel this excitement from a guy who can just galvanize a fan base. You're also learning how to be a fan in college sports completely anew. I mean, this is not the college athletics that was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and it certainly isn't what it was 10 years ago, right? The emotional investment in players coming and going and leaving, is Kenny going to be able to keep that up, right? Like the highs and the lows of competing, because you might run into a year where Texas Tech pours $1 billion into their football team, and maybe you don't have a chance to win the Big 12. Maybe it's the same thing with BYU, and it goes beyond football, but basketball, volleyball, hockey, all of these other sports, there might just be a year where another school's donor decides to pony up so much more money than what you could dream of because they want to, and they basically buy their way to a conference championship. How do you handle that? Because ASU was the antithesis of that last year, and they still went on to win. I think that this is something where it's going to be fascinating to see how the fan base continues to grow. I think they have still done a pretty good job of embracing Kenny and doing the right thing and showing up and supporting. Yes, expectations have made things really rough this year in a lot of different ways, but overall, I think when you start looking back big picture, if he continues to string together winning seasons, I do believe that a good support base will continue to be here at ASU. I'm not worried about that. Just to kind of put my final bow on things, the thing I'm most worried about is Kenny Dillingham looking at this program in 5 years and saying, I've grown, right? Looking at everything you said, saying, I've grown as a coach. I've seen success as a coach. I love it here. But for reasons clearly out of my control, I am not getting the proper investment that I need in order to get to the point that I want to get to become a national championship contending head coach. And maybe 5 years ago, I thought it was possible here. But because the school, the program, the donors didn't meet what I felt like they could meet 5 years from 5 years ago, then I have to, be a grown up and move on and decide what's best for me and my goals. I don't know if that's going to happen. I do think Kenny's here for the long term, and I think there's a little special part of him that goes beyond just wanting to win, but wanting to win here. But I do think that is an interesting thing to keep tabs on as this program continues to learn how to be a consistent winner for the first time in its long history.
I agree with you. And acknowledging what could happen in the future, you have to be careful because it can affect how you behave in the present. Oregon fans just came off of a season in which they were number one for a long stretch. They got really, really high on that. And what happened to them against an 8th seeded Ohio State, who they had already beaten once, brought them very low. And what we're seeing from Oregon fans this year is an animosity toward Will Stein, even though they have a top 10 offense in several different categories, that is based on the fact that they are preparing themselves to lose again. And so you got to be really, really careful because, yeah, it's a long fall down from the top. But building in all these branches to hit on the way down, it's not good for the soul. It's not good for anybody involved. And so everything that I learned from a very young age, from a little golden children's book called The Little Red Hen, right? And in every situation, it's, who will help me harvest the wheat? Nobody's interested. Who will help me, bake this bread? Nobody's interested. But when it comes time to eat, everybody's at the table. And so I think the best thing for Arizona State fans to do right now is to find out who you are, what you can contribute, and that does not have to be monetary. It can just be in your attitude and the way that you react and the communities that you're part of, whether that's being a diehard with PHNX and engaging with members of the Sun Devil community and getting to know them on a personal level and having that commonality be something, a common experience that you share in your life, and rooting for those people and developing those bonds and welcoming new people into those communities. Or you're part of one of the pay recruiting sites like 247 or On3, you come to Sun Devil Spaces, you join chapter alumni wherever you live around the country. Don't stretch yourself too thin, but at the same time, show up to thresh the wheat, show up to bake the bread. And at the end of the day, maybe the hen will let you eat. Maybe we will be part of a national championship, maybe. But at the same time, like you just don't want to be caught in a situation where you're building this expectation for future loss into your current reality. So I'm not thinking about whether Kenny Dillingham is going to be here 5 years from now. He told his players he's going to be here next year. What can I do? What can everybody else do to make sure that the transition from this year to next year is successful?
That's what I like to hear, Ralph. I think that puts a really good bow on this conversation specifically. Let's touch real quick after the break about maybe some local games that Kenny Dillingham should be keeping an eye on this weekend. And then let's look at a Big 12 slate, Ralph, because I just love talking Big 12 football with you. It's Sorsby Central, and it's coming up after our final break. Yeah, I know I still look good despite Anthony Totri not sitting next to me. It's because of the hat. I'm wearing a Branded Bills hat, and if you're looking for gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd, well, I would gladly introduce you to our friends over at Branded Bills. I'm going to get to the good part first and then tell you why afterwards. Head to brandedbills.com. Use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. Again, brandedbills.com, code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. 15% off whatever you need. Snapbacks, truckers, fitted, beanies, or tees, they have you covered with performance and style. I wear Branded Bills hats practically every single day. I wear them to do shows. I wear them to walk around. I wear them to work out. And they have all held up immaculately. I even throw them in the washer and they come out and they don't look any different. They didn't lose any integrity at all. Of course, they have partnerships with Arizona State University and also partner with the Suns and their local company out of Mesa, Arizona. So head to brandedbills.com, use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. And of course, we love Mountain America Credit Union, a proud sponsor of Arizona State University, and of course, a proud sponsor of Mountain America Stadium. I tell you this all the time, but just a reminder, if you love ASU, you should love MACU because they donate $250 to support university athletics for every field goal made. They provide $20,000 in scholarships to local student athletes each year, and they sponsor a shoe donation program to award brand new shoes to community members in need. But they also want to help you as a community as well with their My Style checking account, which has perks just for the community members: identity protection, telehealth access, loan rate discounts, restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, offers on travel and events, and so much more. You can make My Style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/mystyle to apply. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits require no cost registration and activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply with Mountain America Credit Credit Union. Shout out to the chat for hanging out with us here on a Toe Treeless Friday. We got Wes Beasy, Ben Sheedy, Alan, John M, William. Man, Sharon's in here. David's in here. We appreciate all of y'all hanging out with us. Stephen Joseph Comedy as well. Max is in here. Anthony, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on a Friday. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And if you missed it earlier this week, Totri and I talked to Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham, talked about the head coaching rumors, talked about what player injury updates we could be expecting from him. I did the worm for him. We did just about everything in that interview. And one thing that he mentioned, Ralph, was that it is a bye week this week, and he is going to be recruiting some local games. Obviously, I would say if you're going to talk to anybody about local Arizona high school football, you are near the top, if not at the top of the list of people that I would want to talk to. Give me a brief breakdown. Who is playing this weekend that Kenny might be interested in going and watch?
Okay. Oh, you just used the word watch. This is perfect for the analogy I'm about to use. You ever see those movies where somebody's like, I got what you need, and they open up their jacket and there's like 90 different counterfeit or hot watches.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming at that point. I'm the watch guy. I got some information for you, but I need to know, what is it you're looking for? What might interest your fancy?
Ooh, can I know my options? Or is that a no?
What positions exist on the football field that you'd like to see upgraded or be seeded
instead
by
of positions?
talent?
Instead of positions, Ralph. Instead of positions, let's talk about like any top 10 players in the state in action this weekend that Kenny might go watch.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So the lower level playoffs start today. The upper level, the highest level, has its final week of the regular season. So we'll stay kind of up at the highest level, right? There's guys that you're not going to get, like a Devin Fitzgerald or a Dalen Sharper out of Brophy Prep. These are class of 2026 kids. Maybe the ship has sailed on somebody like that. But I think the important thing for Kenny Dillingham to do is to go around, do some maintenance work, check in on the high school coaches, make sure everything is good. But if you're talking about high level players, there's a player he's already seen that it wouldn't hurt to check in on again. And that is Roy and his brother, Roman Oliver, who will be at Chandler High tonight. If you're looking to get out, spend $10 and see a heck of a show in a packed house over there on Oakland Street off Arizona Avenue, the Chandler Wolves are going to be hosting the Hamilton Huskies in one of the best rivalry games in all of Arizona. Chandler has a quarterback named Will Menzel who just got his first offer from Syracuse not that long ago. He's a 2027 kid. He's big. He's 6'5". He can run. He's got a rocket arm. He's got a 2026 wide receiver named Jai Jones that I think is probably a power conference level player. And then you have Hamilton and their 2027 quarterback, Jack Scully, is a fantastic player as well. Someone that is going to, I think, probably have every offer in the country when it's all said and done. But it's those Oliver brothers, the sons of R.J. Oliver, who played at Arizona State under Dennis Erickson and Dirk Cutter, I believe. He has a sophomore and a freshman wide receiver out there, the oldest of which, Roy Oliver, has 25 touchdown receptions this year and 2 touchdowns on special teams plays. I heard you might need special teams help. The record for most touchdown receptions at the highest level in a single season was 24. But now it's owned by this sophomore who has probably 2 or 3 games left in the season and is averaging over 3 touchdown catches per contest. That's the thing that we've always talked about. Which is like someday there's going to be people who came to ASU, stayed in the Valley, raised their kids here, existed as Arizona State fans, and someday their kids are going to be the ones to ultimately make the decision to stay home. Well, we've arrived. And so, I think that you probably get a kick out of watching those two play, and any Arizona State support, I think, is something that, would stand out. People holding signs or dressed in maroon and gold going to some of these Hamilton games, you could ultimately make a pretty big impact. I would say Roy Oliver is the most talented wide receiver I have seen in the state of Arizona. And this doesn't go into like body type, because N'Keal Harry was a 5-star off the fact that he was 6'4" with a 40-inch vertical. But Roy Oliver is the most talented receiver I've seen since Christian Kirk. And he's the son of an ASU player. And so that would be the one where I would focus. There's a lot of great players all across the valley. It's just, do you want to invest in local freshmen, especially offensive linemen who might need a couple years in the weight room, or players who are going to get paid by other colleges? If you want to send them off 2 years to get developed elsewhere and they get homesick and welcome them back then, sometimes that serves you a lot better than ultimately just going after high school prospects. But Roy Oliver is one that I would absolutely prioritize.
Yeah, I was listening to you talk about Scully and Oliver earlier this season and listing off all the records that they had already broken, with, I think it was like 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. And it's just like, wow. And then seeing some of those plays, I mean, those are two guys that I feel like if you're Kenny, you're the quarterback guy, and maybe now you're a wide receiver school as well. If you can keep Roy home and you got a spot for Roman as well, that would be nice. I would really, really like that. Obviously, Ralph, if people want more Arizona high school football coverage, you want to let them know where they can find that?
Yeah, ArizonaVarsity.com at AZHSFB. Arizona Varsity was part of Rivals from 2004 to 2025. I've run it since 2015, and we just got fired by Rivals. So if anybody wants to support independent media, the guys that write for me, they're out there, salt of the earth, covering the last pure form of football. So give them a follow. Greg Rosenberg, Jacob Saliga, Adam Beal, Brett Gwentine, all those guys do a fantastic job. And ArizonaVarsity.com.
Wow. I now have a new rival, pun intended. So all my homies hate Rivals. Okay, Ralph, we love some Big 12 football, though. A very exciting weekend despite no Arizona State playing. If you had to pick a game, what are you keeping your eyes on, and why, oh why is it Brendan Sorsby?
I like Brendan Sorsby. He didn't have the best game last week, but this is a good year for Cincinnati. I think they're breaking a lot of expectations. If you're an Arizona State fan, you were rooting against Cincinnati. So forget them. Don't worry about them.
Do you think he's going to dominate the bye week? Do you think it's going to help his Heisman contention?
I think that I would love to just see clips of him out there running the RPO, just around the edge, just out there with the boys. I like him. I like that he can run. I like that he can throw it over the top. I think he's judicious. I don't think he was surrounded by the best talent in the world till this year. And
you were right. You were right on Sorsby.
Hey man.
I'm proud of.
Hey Ralph, it's Shane.
Hey buddy.
I just wanted to call in and say a 21-2 interception ratio. It's pretty good. Brendan Sorsby.
It's not bad. He got like 5 or 6 touchdown runs as well.
He's a good football player.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's been more right than Ralph was on Brandon Sorsby at the beginning of the season. But Ralph, obviously there's a big game, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Colorado, West Virginia. No, I'm kidding. BYU, Texas Tech.
That is a big game. That is a big game. Did you hear that Colorado's starting the 5-star?
Yeah, they are. And these are two teams that ASU play the next 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how they're playing. Maybe, West Virginia kind of found a little bit of a better answer at quarterback for them for the rest of the season. Maybe Colorado does the same. We'll get to them, Ralph. You're a sicko. I know you're excited for West Virginia and Colorado. But we got to talk about the number 7 team in the country versus the number 8 team in the country. Texas Tech hosting BYU. BYU still undefeated on the season, undefeated in conference. Ralph was also right about BYU being undefeated this late into the season. But if I remember correctly, Ralph, you predicted BYU to win this game back when I had you on the show in our previous bye week. Do you still feel that way now that we are less than 24 hours away from kickoff?
Hey, now I think I said they'd go 8-0 and finish 9-3. So we're at 8-0.
Okay.
The hard part's out of the way. Whatever happens after here, like I'm fine with. I think it's, either way, Arizona State needs one of these teams to lose, and that's what's going to happen. A mobile quarterback has given this Texas Tech $7 million defensive line fits. But that's about all that you've been able to do against this Texas Tech defensive line. They are the number one run defense in America. And part of that is the deduction of all the sack yards, but I think they're only giving up about 3 yards a carry to running backs. So it's scary season if you are BYU because you rely so much on giving 20 to 25 touches to LJ Martin. You got an offensive line that averages 6'4", 315. I say go out and try to lean on these dudes because it really is the run game and defense that travels. BYU has not only have they not played a lot of tough teams, they did get Utah at home and they got a beat up Iowa State team just like we did. Their win over Iowa State was last in the country in expected result over what actually played out in the game. So is BYU actually good? I don't think so. But can you get away with, if LJ Martin is healthy, keeping this game close and maybe your freshman quarterback does something special with his legs? Absolutely. And the thing about BYU is they're actually deep at quarterback. They got 3 different guys that can play, including Coach Bourguet's brother, Trayson, who is there as a backup. So it'll be really interesting to see how BYU handles this environment, this road trip, and this defensive line. But I do know a couple of the things that have given Texas Tech's D-line issues, Avery Johnson's legs, Sam Levitt's legs, is something that Bear Bachmeier has access to in his arsenal. I just don't think they're going to pull it off. I really don't. And so I give Texas Tech this one. I think it's going to be like a few of their other games, like against Utah and Kansas State, and even Arizona State, where in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden you see what all that money actually went to pay for.
Yeah, I think BYU is a good team. I don't think they're the number 7 team in the country. I think there's a line here. I think that they have earned a lot of respect by the way that they've been able to win games, but you are right in the fact that their opponents and how they win these games. I mean, again, Iowa State was in a great position before a punt went off of one of their, special teams players' foot, which if that happened here, then I think Mount America Stadium might burn down.
Couldn't be me.
And then, of course, the U of A win. I mean, U of A should have won that game, right? I mean, there was just awful game management from Brent Brennan at the end of it and some help from the refs. BYU ends up getting a win over an Arizona team that I don't think is great either. So I do think BYU has gotten lucky, but I also believe that good teams take advantage of luck. On the road, though, Texas Tech is a 10-point favorite at home. I think Tech wins. I think Tech wins by 2 touchdowns, but I don't think that means BYU is a bad football team. I just don't think they are as good as what their ranking says. I want to ask if another team is good because they beat ASU 2 weeks ago. Then they went and lost to West Virginia at home, and tonight at 6 p.m., the Houston Cougars are on the road to take on 4-4 UCF, 1-4 in the Big 12. Is Houston actually good, Ralph?
Well, hold on. Is Houston actually good? Maybe. And I know we just talked about how gambling is horrible, but just want to point something out. UCF opened this game as 3-point favorites, right?
They were the favorites at home.
It is now swung to Houston -1.5. So the people believe in the Cougars.
Do you, Ralph?
I do a little bit in this game. I don't know if you guys have actually seen the battle that's going back and forth between Houston and UCF. But first, let me ask you and Shane this. You can only name one city. I'm not going to say gun to your head because this would be a wild thing for somebody to pull a gun on you and ask. But you can only give one answer. What city or region in America do you associate with NASA and space travel?
Houston.
Oh, my God. It's the space game. Wait, are they doing their space game tonight?
They are. Space uniforms and everything. And they've been taking shots at each other through media releases. Houston congratulated Orlando on being the theme park capital of the world and pointed out that Houston campus is only 25 miles away from their space station, whereas UCF is 33 miles away from Cape Canaveral.
Dude, this is awesome.
This is awesome.
8 miles makes a lot of difference, and those are definitely fighting words.
That's awesome.
UCF has put out all their space credentials as well. Houston does want everybody to know that they sent somebody to the moon 4 years before UCF was a school. They do want people to know that.
I'm going to derail this because it hasn't been derailed. The show hasn't been derailed too much, and it's Friday. When I was in Houston when I was living on the bus that I lived on. If you don't know, I lived on a bus, whatever. It's pertinent because the bus driver took me to the NASA museum, and I was like, "Hey, I can get you in for free. I have an extra ticket. Do you want to come?" And he said, "Quote, no, I don't believe in that shit." And then I said, "What do you mean?" And it's like space, and he was like, "Yeah." I love you, Shannon.
Oh my God. I don't believe in space. But Ralph kind of believes in the Houston Cougars. That makes me so much more invested in this game tonight. I can't lie.
That's what you need for Friday night. Now, my advice is put on maroon and gold, go to Chandler High and shout at Roy Oliver at a 15, 16-year-old kid. But if you're not that sick in the head and you're only a little sick in the head, throw some money on the Houston Cougars out there, proving that they, in fact, have all of the astrological. Astronomical.
Astronomical.
Astronomical bona fides. I went to Arizona State. I'm trying.
Can I put money on UCF to win the football game, but Houston to win the space war?
What's that parlay payout?
I'm sure Kalshi or something has something like that.
This is definitely an overtime conversation, so we're going to have it there. If you're watching on TV, the party always continues over at gophnx.com. But if you're watching on YouTube, you don't got to go anywhere. If you're listening on audio, you also don't have to go anywhere. All you got to do, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as we end the week here on a bye week. Make sure it's a 5-star review on audio as well. So your official prediction is Houston moves to 8-2 on the season with a win over the inferior astronomical and football school.
Yeah, a very, very low scoring game, by the way.
A lot of Connor Wigman runs up the gut for 4 yards.
Unfortunately, yeah. A lot of PTSD if you're watching that.
Ralph, the rest of the slate, kind of a light week in the Big 12 minus BYU, Texas Tech. Obviously, you mentioned Colorado, West Virginia is going to be interesting, and those are two schools that Arizona State plays over the next following weeks. Kansas, Arizona, the battle of mid, and then Iowa State and TCU. What stands out from you?
Do you know what the over-under is in that Kansas-Arizona game? I think it will actually shock people.
I'm looking right now.
It's got to be a lot of points, right?
Shane, what do you think?
I would think if it's not a lot of points, you would think it would be 52.
You think 52 is a lot? You watch too much NFL.
No. Well, 50. I mean, no. 52 is a good amount for college football. I mean, a high over under in college football is 63, 65. But a gross Big Ten battle, for example, would be 44.
So for reference, at least from what I'm seeing here, the total points over under is the same for Iowa State TCU as it is for Kansas Arizona. 57.5. That's what I'm seeing. Or is that what you see, Ralph? Oh, it's gone up.
It was at one point. It was 56 flat, and it's climbing. I think because people are looking at this who is stopping anyone?
Yeah.
In this game. I mean, outside of turnovers that would reset drives, I think this is going to be both teams approaching 30. I've been wrong before, but Arizona's offense looks like it's coming into its own. And at this point, Jalen Daniels is just allowed to do whatever he wants, apparently. We just got to be
citizen discount.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's like when a dog is dying and you give it cake.
And it gets that little
you can have some peanut butter, dude.
But it's got to be nuts because Lance Leipold went out and he built what might be one of the best offensive lines in the entire Big 12. And you would say the job of this offensive line, go out there and just blow people up and create opportunities and protect the pocket. Well, Jalen Daniels doesn't know a pocket and they don't really run the ball. So he's just out there wasting this incredible offensive line, flying all over the field. And he's hard to stop. And so I think that I don't know. I think you might see a game go into the 30s on both ends. Get a little Big 12 classic going on. The West Virginia Colorado game is interesting because Deion Sanders he's a lot. He just demoted his offensive coordinator for the second time in 3 seasons.
Awesome.
And now he won't let his players talk to the media because and I'm not doubting his sincerity on this. He's they're not ready to talk to you guys. They're they're not mature enough. They don't understand how they're getting curb stomped like this. They're not going to come out and say something that reflects well on them. So he's trying to be protective of them. But I also thought the reason he wasn't starting Juju Lewis is because he was trying to protect Juju Lewis. I think Juju Lewis is about to find some stuff out about himself. I think West Virginia might beat Colorado with 5-star on the field, because one thing Rich Rod's going to do is, we're on our 7th-string running back and our 5th-string quarterback. I don't care. They can run, right? We're going to run straight ahead. We're going to do it 55 times. And he has, with teams of limited talent, won a lot of games that maybe his teams don't deserve to win, because that's how he attacks these games. So if Colorado is at all soft defensively, as soft as they've shown themselves to be, and they can't put 14 to 20 points on the board offensively in somebody's first ever start, you're going to get the Mountaineers making Deion Sanders maybe think about college football not being for him.
Ooh, I like it. Except for if he could stick around for a couple weeks. That'd be nice for Numbies. So you think West Virginia beats Colorado?
I do, yeah.
You think Houston beats UCF?
Yeah, barely, like 20-17 style. Yeah.
Over under on that one's 47.5, by the way. Okay. You think Tech beats BYU and relatively comfortably at home?
Yeah, maybe 1-score game in the 4th that gets, like Shane said, gets a little more lopsided.
So Kansas, Arizona, and Tucson. Who are you going with?
But you have to factor in Trey Spivey scores on the first play of the game, like he always does.
Sure.
On like
so spot him 7.
And then he doesn't touch the ball.
That's what I'm talking about, needing to get these Hamilton wide receivers to ASU instead of Arizona. Trey Spivey is really good. I'll say Arizona takes this one at home.
Bowl eligible Brent Brennan saves his job. Iowa State TCU is, I'd say, the nightcap. It's at 1:30, same as Kansas, Arizona. So no Big 12 night games this weekend. Iowa State on the road, looking to avoid going 500 against a TCU team that I guess technically still maybe, possibly, if you squint, might have a chance at making a Big 12 championship. Possibly, maybe. They're 6-2, but 3-2 in the Big 12. You think Hoover and company gets it done over a struggling Rocco Becht in Iowa State?
I do. And part of the reason that I think that is because it's like, what do you even coach at this point? It's not like Josh Hoover is going to go rush for 228 yards, right? But they are going to attack these corners. And Iowa State, I think I might have said it on this show, but sometimes you break your hand punching somebody in the head. And that's what happened to Iowa State. They broke every limb in their body, beating Arizona to death.
Yeah.
And so they're just not talented on the outside. And I think God, it sucks, but they're going to fall to 2-5 in conference.
Ooh, what a tough year for the Cyclones. Yeah, that's just,
it might end up being the best thing for them, though, because because Matt Campbell has turned down about 7 jobs, and this might have been the year with the number of openings to get him out of there, with a huge offer, and bring him to a Penn State or even a Virginia Tech, like really upping, but maybe people think twice. The only thing that makes me think that might not be the case is, do you guys remember there's only 2 coaches in our lifetimes that have been poached from a power school that have won a national championship? Do you know who they are?
There's only been 2 that have been poached from a Power 4-5 school that have won a national championship.
Only 2 in our lifetimes. Yep. One of them is the GOAT.
So Saban.
Yeah, from when LSU pulled him out of Michigan State.
And when he said he wasn't going anywhere.
I don't know. I thought it'd be way more than that.
The other was the head coach of the 2-10 Iowa State Cyclones, Gene Chizik.
Gene Chizik talk on PHNX Sun Devils.
They were 2-10, and Auburn hired him. And so maybe somebody still goes after Matt Campbell. But if this makes Matt Campbell less attractive, they're not going to do better than him. If you look at their history, they are like the 90s LA Clippers of college football, but like permanently going back 100 years. He's the best thing that ever happened to them. And if them having one bad year in the most hectic and chaotic hiring cycle that ever existed saves Iowa State, then that's going to be a really, really great thing for them.
Okay, last thing, and then we'll get out of here. Ralph, tell me Gene Chizik's overall head-to-head win-loss record as a head coach in college football?
It's got to be sub 500 because he was...
It's 72 games.
72 games. Okay.
That's not a lot of games.
Say he only 72?
76, actually. Yeah, 76.
32 and 44.
I'll go 35 and whatever the loss would be. I can't do math.
500, baby. 38 and 38.
Let's go.
Insane.
Never doubt the Gene Man. By the way, I didn't know it was possible that Matt Campbell could be less attractive to other schools. But anyway.
I thought we were getting...
Yeah, I thought you were just talking about how he looks.
I was. But with Iowa State, I think last year was the first year that they won 10 games ever.
Yeah.
Literally ever.
They'd have got there in 2020 if they had non-conference games.
2020 was not a real year. But Ralph, I appreciate you stopping by. We're going to have you on again on Tuesday. We'll be talking a little bit more preparation for West Virginia as Arizona State's on the bye week this weekend. If you're looking for a fix over the weekend and you missed Totri and I's interview with Kenny Dillingham, that's still live on our YouTube channel right now. That was from on Monday. This week is a full show, so go ahead and check that out if you need something to do over the weekend, or just go listen to it again if you have some time that you need to do. And of course, you can always tap in with what Ralph's got going on from a high school football scene, from a college football scene. You can follow him at Ralph Amsden. You just want to let the people know what you got going on this weekend and where they can find you.
I just missed a call from Mr. George Reister. That is my partner in crime over at Unafraid Show. That is where I cover college football. We just did our episode of College Football Apostles this week. If you've never listened to it, give it a try. It's fun. It's an hour every week. We talk about weird stories and pretty much weird stories only. And we've been doing it for about 6 or 7 years now. It used to be the Pac-12 Apostles, but something happened. So it's a College Football Apostles. I have to learn about 136 schools now instead of 12. And I'm tired all the time. But it would mean a lot to me if you guys gave it a listen. It's on YouTube. I think it's on podcast platforms, but it's on YouTube.
Always support Ralph. We love Ralph. Ralph, obviously a big advocate for PHNX and PHNX Sun Devils. Make sure you go show him the same amount of love the other way. Hardworking guy, very good at what he does in every front. So make sure you follow him at Ralph Amsden. And wow, that was kind of nice to catch that. Make sure you follow him at Ralph Amsden, and make sure you show him some love as we appreciate him joining us. Are you asking me to throw it back to you? Bucket.
All right, let's get out of here.
I don't know why Shane's throwing things at me, but let's get out of here. You can follow the show at PHNX_Sun Devils. Of course, we appreciate Anthony Totri when he ever is around. You can follow him at Anthony_Totri. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. And of course, you can follow the Deli Man at Shane Deef.
Having to go to the bathroom as always, so I threw a ball at Ruby.
All right, let's keep it going here, Ralph. Let's talk about.
We all silly like the mayor.